A young woman woke up to find that she had somehow become Qin Qin, the third princess in her own script. Qin Qin was not supposed to survive past episode 3. Even worse, she was about to marry Han Shuo, the heir of Xuanwu City. In the story she had written, Qin Qin was supposed to die on their wedding night. Han Shuo would personally hand her a cup of poisoned wine. Not long before, she had been Xiao Qin, a modern-day screenwriter. When she opened her eyes again, several handsome men were lying beside her. Everything around her had a price tag, and there were even question marks floating above the men's heads. The moment they saw her awake, they bowed and called her princess. Then she noticed the musicians' accessories and the palace outside the window. That was when she realized she had actually entered the script she had written. Xiao Qin was now Qin Qin, the reckless third princess of Huaiyuan City. The marriage had been arranged to maintain relations between the two cities. Now that marriage was leading her straight toward the death she had written for Qin Qin. Huaiyuan City was ruled by women, while Xuanwu City was ruled by men. After Xuanwu City lost the war, it had no choice but to send its heir, Han Shuo, to Huaiyuan City. He was there to marry Qin Qin and live with her family. Han Shuo also suffered from a heart condition. Huaiyuan City happened to possess a secret treasure known as the Dragon Bone, which could cure all illnesses. In the original story, Han Shuo was supposed to get close to Qin Qin's sister, Chu Chu. He would use her to obtain the Dragon Bone. But his plan had barely begun when Qin Qin knocked the entire plot off course. Han Shuo was originally supposed to save Chu Chu. Instead, Qin Qin rushed out, and he had no choice but to save her. Everyone around them was impressed, and Qin Qin began paying attention to Han Shuo. She looked at the handsome young man in front of her and ordered her attendants to take him back to her residence. Her attendants quickly warned her that this was against the rules. Qin Qin refused to listen. Even though Han Shuo was the heir of Xuanwu City, she still insisted on taking him back and marrying him. She even declared that the wedding would take place the next day. When Han Shuo learned that she was the notorious third princess Qin Qin, he immediately pretended his heart condition was acting up. Then he collapsed to the ground. His attendant quickly played along and said Han Shuo was too weak to handle the marriage. They hoped this would make Qin Qin take back her order. Instead, Qin Qin became even more determined to bring him back to her residence before he died. Since Han Shuo could no longer avoid the marriage, he decided to use the wedding to his advantage. He planned to poison Qin Qin on their wedding night. His original plan remained unchanged: support Chu Chu in taking power, use her to obtain the Dragon Bone for his heart condition, then help Xuanwu City conquer Huaiyuan City. Qin Qin also knew that she was supposed to die that night. If she died here exactly as the script had written, she might be able to return to the real world. So while everyone else prepared for the wedding, Qin Qin focused on only one part of the ceremony, the wine. Every other ritual could be skipped. That cup of wine had to stay. On the wedding night, Han Shuo had already prepared poison and a dagger. Qin Qin was also waiting for the cup of wine that was supposed to kill her. But as soon as the ceremony began, Han Shuo was pushed to his limit by Huaiyuan City's wedding customs. A newly married man had to wear a veil. He also had to have a mark placed on his arm to show whether the couple had consummated the marriage. Han Shuo could barely tolerate it. Fortunately, Qin Qin arrived in time and got him out of the situation. Once everyone finally left, the real danger began. Han Shuo secretly slipped poison into one of the cups. Qin Qin knew there was something wrong with the wine, but she still drank it. She believed that if she died according to the original plot, she would return to reality. But she had forgotten that the wedding customs here were reversed from what she remembered. The positions of the bride's and groom's cups were reversed. The cup she drank was actually the one without poison. Han Shuo had to improvise. He secretly tried to switch the cups back. But the more he tried to hide what he was doing, the more chaotic things became. Qin Qin thought his veil was getting in the way and reached out to remove it. The next second, she froze. Han Shuo's face looked exactly like Li Xin, the actor who had played the male lead in the real world. Qin Qin stared at the familiar face in confusion. Han Shuo assumed she had discovered the poison and cautiously tested her response. Since Qin Qin already knew something was wrong with the wine, she simply mixed the two cups together. Then she told Han Shuo to choose one and drink it. But no one else believed Han Shuo would actually poison her. Frustrated, Qin Qin drank both cups and then sampled every dish on the table. She even suspected the poison might be on Han Shuo's lips. So she kissed him in front of everyone. A moment later, her tongue went numb. Her head spun, and she collapsed. When Qin woke up again, Zirue and the others were still around her. She had not returned to the real world. Dying once had not worked. Then she remembered the true ending she had written. Chu had to survive all her trials and take the throne before the gate back to the real world would open. That gate was Qin's only way home. So she needed to survive until the ending and get the derailed plot back on track. Han Shuo still had to get close to Chu and help her become city lord. But the biggest problem was that he still wanted Qin dead. Once she sorted this out, Qin hurried to find Han Shuo. Only then did she learn that he had already been thrown into prison. Han Shuo was furious in his cell and wanted Qin executed immediately. But because he still needed the dragon bone, he could not leave yet. Qin had no choice but to go to Lord Qin, the ruler of Huayuan City and her mother in this world. She asked Lord Qin to release Han Shuo and let him marry Chu instead. Lord Qin believed Han Shuo had to have another purpose for coming to Huayuan City. He was the only son of Xuanwu City's ruler, Lord Han, yet he had been sent there to marry into Qin's family. So Lord Qin firmly refused. Qin had no other choice and made up another story. She claimed that she was already pregnant with Han Shuo's child. Lord Qin was furious but still could not bring herself to truly punish Qin. Qin then sent a message into the prison. If Han Shuo agreed to acknowledge the child, he could be released immediately. After leaving prison, Han Shuo quickly prepared to poison Qin again. His attendant hid the poison in one of the glazed bowls. But Qin suddenly moved all the dishes into the glazed bowls. Even Han Shuo could no longer tell which one was poisoned. Neither of them dared to eat. In the end, Han Shuo simply flipped the table over. Qin had no choice but to go eat with Lord Qin instead. Unfortunately, her fake pregnancy was exposed because of the mark on her arm. She could only continue claiming that she and Han Shuo had fallen in love at first sight. Lord Qin was angry, but she still warned Qin to keep Han Shuo under control. As long as he caused no more trouble, Lord Qin would spare his life for the time being. Qin gathered several professional story writers and described the three-way relationship as a banana, an apple, and an orange. The story writers immediately suggested getting rid of the orange first. That orange was Qin herself. With their advice getting her nowhere, Qin arranged a rescue that would put Han Shuo in position to save Chu. Instead, Han Shuo drew his sword and attacked Qin. Chu immediately stepped in to protect her sister, and the two began fighting. During the chaos, Chu even tore Han Shuo's clothes off. The fight only stopped when Pei Heng, who had been engaged to Qin since childhood, arrived. Qin's setup had backfired. Han Shuo and Chu now disliked each other even more, and Han Shuo still wanted Qin dead. After Pei Heng learned what had happened, he pulled Qin aside and scolded her. She had forcibly taken Han Shuo away and brought him to the Jiaofeng Bureau, which housed and managed musicians. He had been humiliated there. Qin had handled the situation badly. After hearing Pei Heng's words, Qin began to cry and admitted she had been wrong. She then personally went to apologize to Han Shuo. Han Shuo did not believe her at all. To prove her sincerity, Qin took off her outer robe. She intended to put herself through the same humiliation Han Shuo had suffered earlier that day. When she looked ready to remove another layer, Han Shuo quickly blocked her with a blanket. Qin immediately kicked him, thinking he was trying to take advantage of her. The two argued for a while. Han Shuo then noticed the mark on her arm, which proved they had not consummated the marriage. He now knew Qin had lied about being pregnant. But that lie had gotten him out of prison. Qin used the opportunity to agree on 3 rules with him. In public, they would follow Huayuan City's customs. In private, they would follow Xuanwu City's customs. They would respect each other, and neither would make things difficult for the other. After settling the terms, Qin turned and left. Then Han Shuo suddenly remembered something far more dangerous. The archers outside were still waiting for his order. He grabbed the blanket and rushed after her. The next moment, a rain of arrows flew toward Qin. Han Shuo charged forward and used the blanket to block every arrow. Qin turned toward Han Shuo and froze in shock. Then she looked down and saw another arrow lying near her feet, leaving her badly shaken. Soon afterward, Qin dreamed about the original plot again. On the Qixi festival, a day associated with romance, Han Shuo was supposed to use his relationship with Chu against Lord Chen. during a public procession. He would badly injure Lord Chen with a bombing, then lead troops to capture Huayuan City. He would even publicly admit that he had killed Qin Qin. When Qin Qin woke from the dream, her situation had not changed. She had escaped the poisoned wine, but she still had to survive until the ending. The story writers still had no reliable solution, so Qin Qin decided to win Han Shua's trust herself. She pretended to be a Xuanwu spy and used a city defense map to lure Han Shua onto a boat on the moat. She also sent a secret message to Chu Chu. The plan was for Chu Chu to arrive with soldiers while Qin Qin helped Han Shua escape. That way, Han Shua would believe Qin Qin had saved him, while Chu Chu would get credit for the operation. But Qin Qin arrived early and ended up being lured onto the boat herself. Chu Chu soon arrived with soldiers and searched the cabin, but there was no sign of the supposed Xuanwu spy. Han Shua was nowhere to be found either. By the time Qin Qin understood what had happened, she looked like the spy. Fortunately, Chu Chu believed her sister had only been used by Han Shua. After Qin Qin made it back to shore, Han Shua appeared. He had sensed the trap as soon as he received the secret message, played along, and used Qin Qin's setup against her. As soon as they returned to the residence, the two confronted each other. Qin Qin accused Han Shua of deliberately avoiding the trap at the moat. He had almost made her take the blame for him. Han Shua demanded to know whether she had been the one who plotted against him that night. Qin Qin immediately pretended to be worried about him. Bai Ji did not believe her at all. But Han Shua followed the clues from the city defense map and the wax-sealed bamboo tube. His suspicion eventually shifted to Chu Chu. He even suspected that Chu Chu had tried to use the incident to gain credit and compete for the position of heir. Qin Qin's attempt to win Han Shua's trust had failed. But Han Shua reached a completely different conclusion. He believed Qin Qin had fallen in love with him. Once Han Shua decided not to kill her for the time being, Qin Qin relaxed. Even so, she still tried to push him toward Chu Chu. On the day Qin Qin went to class, Han Shua accompanied her as an attendant. Lin Qi deliberately provoked Qin Qin. After losing to Qin Qin in a poetry contest, Lin Qi became furious. She took it out on Su Mu, a musician from the Jiaofeng Bureau. When Qin Qin saw that Su Mu had been injured, she went straight to the Jiaofeng Bureau to confront Lin Qi. She demanded that Su Mu be released and regain his freedom. She also defended Han Shua in front of everyone. Han Shua happened to hear everything she said. Later, Han Shua went to Lord Chen and pretended to be weak from illness. He asked her to send the musicians from the Jiaofeng Bureau to the princess's residence. After Lord Chen agreed, Qin Qin used the opportunity to strike back at Lin Qi. She kept only Su Mu and sent the other musicians back. Only then did she learn that Han Shua had helped her behind the scenes. But Qin Qin did not know that a Xuanwu spy was hiding among the musicians sent to the princess's residence. Han Shua then asked Qin Qin to send the other musicians to Chu Chu. He planned to use them to gather information. Qin Qin then turned her attention to Huayuan City's secret treasure, the Dragon Bone. The treasure could cure illness and neutralize poison. Only one existed every 1,000 years, and no one had ever dared to touch it. Qin Qin simply took it. Then she personally cooked it into a pot of soup. At the same time, Han Shua prepared a banquet in the small garden. Qin Qin brought dragon bone soup. Han Shua was waiting for her with another cup of poisoned wine. When Qin Qin said she had cooked the dragon bone, Han Shua did not believe her at first. But then he saw the 1,000-year-old treasure in the pot. His expression changed. The poisoned wine was still in the small garden. Han Shua hurried back, but he was too late. Qin Qin had already found it. She poured all of it out. Then she pretended to have been poisoned and lay down. Zirue hid nearby, played music, and set off fireworks to make the scene look convincing. When Han Shua arrived, Qin Qin appeared to have drunk the poisoned wine for him. Lord Qin soon arrived as well. She already knew that Qin Qin had stolen the dragon bone and had also heard that her daughter had been poisoned. But before saving anyone, Lord Qin gave Han Shua a choice. There was only one dragon bone. If he drank it himself, his heart condition could be cured. Han Shua told them to use the dragon bone to save Qin Qin instead. He said Qin Qin had already done so much for him. He could not stand by and watch her die. Qin Qin had no choice but to keep pretending. She even resisted opening her mouth. In the end, Han Shua personally fed her the dragon bone soup. Unfortunately, the medicine worked too quickly. After one sip, Qin Qin almost exposed the act on the spot. She immediately pretended to be weak again and claimed that the dragon bone had already started working. Then she forced Han Shuo to drink the rest of the dragon bone soup. Han Shuo had no choice but to do it. In the end, Qin Qin fell into his arms and kept up the act. Afterward, Qin Qin claimed that the poisoning had cost her martial arts skills. She used that story to cover the changes caused by her arrival in this world. Han Shuo was still a threat, and she still wanted him with Chu Chu. So she proposed ending their marriage and said he could go to Chu Chu instead. She pointed out that Chu Chu was loved and respected by the people, while she spent her days doing nothing useful. Qin Qin had stolen the dragon bone to save Han Shuo, but she had also created an even bigger problem. Han Shuo had already consumed Huayuan City's 1,000-year-old treasure. The people and officials were all waiting for Lord Qin to give them an explanation. To protect Qin Qin, Lord Qin had no choice but to place the blame on Han Shuo. She decided to remove one of his ribs to calm the public outrage. Han Shuo was still unconscious. Shackles and chains held him tightly in place. The executioner had already cut open his chest. Qin Qin broke free from the guards and rushed in front of him. She had stolen the dragon bone. She should bear the punishment as well. Lord Qin ordered the guards to drag her away, but Qin Qin held tightly onto Han Shuo and refused to let go. The order still stood. Just as the executioner approached again, the dragon bone's effects fully kicked in. Han Shuo shattered the shackles and broke free from the chains. The guards around him had barely drawn their swords when he rushed in front of Qin Qin. He even offered to have one of his ribs removed and take the punishment for her. Chu Chu was about to use the blade when Qin Qin stopped her again. This time, Qin Qin refused to let anyone else be punished in her place. She admitted in front of everyone that she had stolen the dragon bone. If someone had to answer to the entire city, it would be her. She asked Lord Qin if giving up her title as princess would spare everyone else from being punished for her. Qin Qin was willing to give up the title and everything that came with it. In the end, Lord Qin could only strip Qin Qin of her title and reduce her to a commoner. But the trouble was far from over. Lin Qi came to collect debts. Merchants took the opportunity to empty the princess's residence. As soon as Qin Qin stepped into the street, angry citizens chased and attacked her. Everyone blamed her for the disaster caused by the loss of the dragon bone. Then the Lin family's mine suddenly collapsed. More than 100 miners were trapped underground. There was only one way to save them. They had to blast open the mountain behind the city. Huayuan City regarded the mountain as a symbol of the city's good fortune. But the dragon bone had just been destroyed, and no one wanted to take responsibility for damaging the mountain too. The citizens even submitted a joint petition demanding that Lord Qin execute Qin Qin. To protect her, Han Shuo had someone suggest delaying the rescue. But that would cost more than 100 miners their lives. Chu Chu also surrounded the princess's residence with soldiers. Officially, she was guarding Qin Qin. In reality, she was still protecting her sister. Han Shuo then took out a map and worked with Qin Qin to find a way to rescue the miners. They eventually decided to risk blowing open the mountain. But blasting the mountain was also punishable by death. Qin Qin wanted to give the opportunity to Chu Chu so Chu Chu could earn the credit. Chu Chu refused outright. With no other option, Qin Qin asked Pei Heng to get her out of the princess's residence and take her to the mine. When she arrived, she found that all the preparations had been completed. The only thing missing was explosives. Then Han Shuo appeared. He had already arranged the explosives. The two were still arguing over who should light the fuse. Then Bai Ji detonated the explosives first. The mountain was blasted open. More than 100 miners were finally rescued. But the officials and powerful families represented by Lin Qi still refused to let Qin Qin go. The miners who had just been rescued all stepped forward to plead for her. While the two sides remained deadlocked, black liquid suddenly began seeping out of the ground. It turned out to be black oil, even more valuable than wuxia. Han Shuo immediately used the discovery to defend Qin Qin. She had saved more than 100 miners and uncovered a valuable new deposit in the process. The same citizens who had been demanding her punishment began chanting her name instead. Qin Qin and Han Shuo also grew closer. Business at Lin Qi's Jiaofeng Bureau had already been poor, and now she had lost a profitable mine too. She became even more dissatisfied. After the mine crisis ended, Qin Qin regained her title. She was immediately drawn into the selection of the city lord's next heir. Pei Heng wanted to help her take first place. When Han Shuo saw Pei Heng getting close to her, he joined the competition as well. The two took turns tutoring Qin. The most ridiculous part was that both of them wanted Qin to win. Qin herself only wanted to lose. In Qin's original plan, Chu was supposed to become the heir. Before the selection even began, Qin bet her entire fortune on Chu. She also sent Chu famous calligraphy works and encouraged her to take first place. Seeing that Qin still supported her, Chu temporarily set aside some of her misunderstandings about her sister. Meanwhile, Qin also gave eldest princess a way to treat her leg condition. Eldest princess misunderstood it as an insult. Qin learned that Lin Qi had already bribed the martial arts examiner to target her. She then made a deal with eldest princess. If Qin won the martial arts test, eldest princess would agree to try rehabilitation. 7 days later, the heir selection officially began. Han Shuo first taught Qin how to protect herself during the martial arts test. When Qin actually faced Lin Qi, she was quickly injured. She held on until eldest princess arrived. Then she used the method Han Shuo had taught her and dragged Lin Qi off the platform with her. The match ended in a draw. But Qin somehow took first place in the martial arts test. Han Shuo wanted to settle the score with Lin Qi for her. Qin stopped him. Pei Heng also came to visit after the martial arts test. Before leaving, he admitted in front of Han Shuo that he liked Qin. The conflict between the two men escalated again. During the written test, Qin casually drew a little figure and turned in her paper. She had no idea that Han Shuo had already switched her exam paper. During the governance proposal test, Qin kept trying to find a way to eliminate herself. She proposed the same tax for every adult, whether man or woman. Unexpectedly, that raised a new question: if men paid the same tax, should they also receive the same rights? Chu proposed using wusher, an important local mineral, to make explosives. Those explosives could strengthen the military and also be traded. After hearing Chu's proposal, Qin was certain that Chu would win this time. She even prepared a congratulatory gift in advance. Then the results were announced. Qin was still in first place. Lord Qin immediately declared Qin the heir of Huayuan City. Qin dropped to her knees and asked Lord Qin to withdraw the decision. But she still did not know the secret that had truly decided the result. Chu was not Lord Qin's biological daughter. No matter how well Chu performed, Lord Qin would never give her the position of heir. Chu did not listen to Qin's explanation and turned away. After returning home, she learned that Han Shuo had already bet his entire fortune on Qin. He had made a large profit. Meanwhile, Qin also learned that Han Shuo had done a great deal behind the scenes to help her keep winning. She immediately blamed him for acting on his own. She had gone to great lengths to put Chu in power. Now the entire plan had been thrown into chaos. Qin changed into her ceremonial robes and prepared for the public procession marking her appointment as heir. During the ceremony, Han Shuo warned Qin not to treat succession to the city lord position too casually. If she voluntarily stepped aside, whoever took her place could turn on her. Qin still refused to accept the position. The two argued again. After they returned to the residence, Han Shuo had to find a way to calm her down. Meanwhile, Lord Qin followed the official's advice and gave Qin her first test as heir. She had to go to Weihushan and eliminate the bandits there. Han Shuo went with her. Qin originally did not want to take the assignment. Then she saw another chance to bring Han Shuo and Chu together. So she accepted the mission and specifically asked to bring Chu along. After Pei Heng heard the news, he sent Suing to take care of Qin. Han Shuo was clearly unhappy about it. Qin was ready to refuse Suing too, until his introduction reminded her of his role in the original script. He was the one who had originally brought Han Shuo and Chu together. So she allowed him to stay. After they set out, Suing took care of Qin throughout the journey. Han Shuo was jealous the entire way. Qin then asked Suing to create a dangerous situation that would force Han Shuo and Chu to rely on each other. Suing quickly set a trap. After Chu fell into it, Han Shuo went to rescue her as expected. The two later stopped to rest in a small thatched hut. Han Shuo picked some wild fruit. When he heard that Qin liked them, he deliberately saved a few to bring back to her. Chu told him that if she could choose again, she would not let another chance with him pass. Han Shuo rejected her immediately. He had already fallen for Qin. Even if he could choose again, he would still choose Qin. Early the next morning, Qin realized the two of them still had not returned, so she questioned Su Ying. That was when she learned they really had fallen into a trap. The problem was, they were in the middle of a campaign against the bandits. With both commanders away from camp, danger could strike at any moment. Qin was about to go look for them when Ziru brought over a bowl of hot porridge. The moment she saw it, she knew something was wrong. They could not just start a fire while the army was on the move. Once smoke rose into the air, it would give away the entire camp's location. And Su Ying was the one who had prepared the porridge. Before Qin could deal with it, the bandits stormed into the camp. She could only keep moving and hide wherever she could. Su Ying acted again and deliberately exposed her hiding place. Just as the danger closed in, Han Shuo finally rode back. He took down the charging bandits and captured their leader, Meng Guo. Meng Guo had spent years occupying the mountains and robbing merchant caravans. After Meng Guo was captured, Chu Chu planned to execute him immediately. But Qin knew that in the original story, Meng Guo would become one of Han Shuo's important officers. So she asked Han Shuo to spare Meng Guo and bring him over to their side. Bai Ji also thought Meng Guo was worth keeping alive. But Meng Guo refused to submit. He even declared that he would capture Qin alive and make her marry him. Han Shuo immediately lost his temper. Qin chose a different approach: capture Meng Guo, release him, then capture him again. She planned to wear him down little by little. Meng Guo could stay alive for now. But Su Ying still had to be investigated. When Han Shuo had Su Ying brought in for questioning, he unexpectedly learned something else. The first trap that Chu Chu had fallen into had actually been arranged by Qin. Qin had done it to give Han Shuo and Chu Chu a chance to spend time together. Han Shuo said nothing after hearing this. He simply turned around and left. After that, he deliberately flirted with Chu Chu whenever Qin was around. Qin saw all of it, but the bandit campaign still had to continue. So she kept capturing Meng Guo and letting him go again. But Su Ying remained the real danger. When the camp was attacked again, he soaked the emergency signal flares in water. By the time Han Shuo arrived, Qin had already been taken back to the bandits' stronghold. At the stronghold, Meng Guo, whom Qin had spared several times, did not kill her. Instead, he treated her as his benefactor. Meng Guo even wanted her to become the leader of the bandits. Qin could only agree for the time being. When Han Shuo led his troops up the mountain, Qin used the alcohol as an excuse to vent all her grievances. Han Shuo eventually carried her away in his arms. Chu Chu stood nearby and watched the two of them. Su Ying's true allegiance was finally revealed. Pei Heng had sent Su Ying to take care of Qin. But Su Ying had actually been working for Chu Chu all along. The previous attacks against Qin had also been his doing. To help Chu Chu become the heir, Su Ying bribed a cook and planned to drug Han Shuo. But Ziru had been watching him and happened to overhear the conversation. The news quickly reached Qin. Su Ying did not stop there. Using Qin's name, he tricked Han Shuo into a storage room. Drugged incense had already been lit inside. The door was locked from the outside. Not long after Han Shuo went in, he began to lose strength. By the time Qin arrived, she could no longer get the door open. She could only tell Ziru to hurry and find Bai Ji. While trapped inside, Han Shuo told Qin about all the grievances he had been holding inside. This time, Qin did not avoid him. She kissed Han Shuo first. Just as the moment grew intimate, Bai Ji arrived with a basin of cold water and interrupted them. Afterward, Han Shuo decided to speak plainly. He had once resented the heavens because of his heart condition. Later, Qin had stolen the dragon bone and saved his life. If Qin had been born in Xuanwu City, he would have formally married her. And for the rest of his life, she would be the only woman in his life. Qin did not push him away like she had before. The two were about to kiss again when Ziru barged in. Soon after, while playing chess with Qin, Chu Chu directly asked her to give Han Shuo back. Qin knew she would eventually return to the modern world, so she agreed. She began deliberately distancing herself from Han Shuo. Han Shuo did not believe her feelings had really changed. He even kissed her to test her. Qin did not push him away, but she still insisted on keeping her distance. To make him give up, she deliberately started getting closer to Pei Heng. The two men immediately clashed. Before Qin could sort out the situation with Han Shuo and Pei Heng, Su Ying stole the city defense map and tried to frame her. Qin Qin had already asked Zirue to keep an eye on him, so she discovered what he was doing. But she did not stop him. If the map was found in her residence, she could lose her position as heir and Chu Chu could take over. When Chu Chu brought soldiers to search the princess's residence, Qin Qin even urged them to move faster. Han Shuo, however, had already told Bai Ji to replace the painting where the city defense map was hidden. When Chu Chu opened it, she found only private portraits of Pei Hang. Even Chen Qin stared at them in disbelief. Pei Hang arrived at that exact moment and found his portraits scattered across the floor. With the framing attempt exposed, Su Ying took responsibility for the crime, and Chu Chu had him thrown into prison. As soon as everyone left, Qin Qin confronted Han Shuo. She had hoped the city defense map would cost her the heir position, but Han Shuo had blocked that outcome. Furious, Qin Qin proposed ending their marriage. The incident soon caused even more trouble. Word spread that Qin Qin had secretly kept portraits of Pei Hang, and his reputation suffered too. Pei Hang already had feelings for Qin Qin, so he personally came to ask for her hand in marriage. Lord Qin ordered Qin Qin to enter marriage with Han Shuo and marry Pei Hang instead. Qin Qin quickly said she did not love Pei Hang and could not simply end her marriage with Han Shuo. But Lord Qin refused to back down. Qin Qin had no choice but to ask the three story writers for advice. As Qixi Festival approached, Qin Qin could no longer ignore what she had written for that day. In the original story, Han Shuo would set off explosives, injure Lord Qin, and gradually take control of Huayuan City. Meanwhile, Han Shuo had already met secretly with officials from Xuanwu City. They told him everything was ready. But he refused to act right away and only said the time had not come yet. At the banquet, Chu Chu used being drunk as an excuse to confess her feelings to him again, but Han Shuo rejected her. When the two Xuanwu City officials made disrespectful remarks about Qin Qin, Pei Hang stepped forward to defend her. Han Shuo also defended his wife and angrily rebuked them. Even so, the officials reminded him not to abandon the original plan because of Qin Qin or disappoint the people of Xuanwu City. At the same time, Lord Qin decided to test Han Shuo by spreading word that Qin Qin and Pei Hang would soon be married. After hearing about it, Han Shuo began to waver over the original plan. Qin Qin, however, had already clearly rejected Pei Hang and asked him to help persuade Lord Qin to withdraw the order. Pei Hang was unwilling to give up so easily. When Han Shuo appeared again, Lord Qin laid out her condition. If he wanted to keep the marriage, he had to follow Huayuan City's marriage customs. That meant wearing a copper ring bearing the family crest. He could never remove it for the rest of his life. Otherwise, his marriage to Qin Qin would end. Han Shuo agreed. Scalding molten metal was poured into the mold. He clenched his teeth without making a sound. That night, Han Shuo brought Qin Qin a Qixi invitation. She rejected him and told him to stop insisting. With Qixi arriving the next day, she still had the original attack in mind. The next day, the festival began. As Qin Qin walked through the streets, she heard people discussing the copper ring on Han Shuo's hand. Only then did she learn what the ring really meant. In Huayuan City, it was not an ordinary marriage ornament. It symbolized a man's lower status within the marriage. Qin Qin immediately searched the crowd for Han Shuo. The next second, Han Shuo suddenly pulled her back from behind. She was still worried about Lord Chen's safety when she noticed the fire striker in Han Shuo's hand. Her worst fear seemed to be coming true. She quickly told Han Shuo how she felt. When she saw the copper ring that could never be removed, she was speechless for a moment. Han Shuo pulled her into his arms and lit the fuse himself. The flame traveled along the fuse into the distance. Qin Qin could only watch until fireworks exploded across the city. Han Shuo had knocked out the Xuanwu City envoys and replaced the prepared explosives with fireworks. After seeing what he had done, Lord Qin believed he could help Huayuan City. Qin Qin said nothing and kissed him. The fireworks had barely ended when Qin Qin arranged for drugged incense to be released. Once Han Shuo was unconscious, she chained him up and lured his guards away. She then accused him of crimes and decided to send him into exile on the southern frontier. Han Shuo would never again be allowed to return to Huayuan City or Xuanwu City. Qin Qin still remembered how the original story ended. Han Shuo would die by Chu Chu's sword. If she sent him away, he might avoid dying that way. But Han Shuo knew none of this. When they met again, Qin Qin even lied and said she had never loved him. She claimed the poisoning, the copper ring, and the fireworks were all part of a plan to gain his trust. She said even his guards were part of it. Han Shuo still refused to believe her. Then he noticed that Chen Qin still had the seal he had given her. Chen Qin smashed it in front of him. Han Shuo asked no more questions. He tore the copper ring fused to his flesh from his hand and threw it to the ground. The exile never happened. Han Shuo saw everything as a betrayal and immediately joined forces with Chu Chu to surround the city and seize power. Overnight, Han Shuo and Chu Chu took the upper hand in Huaiwan City. When Chen Qin woke up after drinking, she had no idea what was happening outside. She did not notice the letter Han Shuo had personally delivered. Then she turned around. Han Shuo was already standing behind her. Chen Qin was so frightened that she could barely stay on her feet. Han Shuo moved toward her one step at a time. Chen Qin burst into tears. When he saw her crying, Han Shuo stopped and simply turned around and left. To save Chen Qin, Pei Hong later disguised himself as a musician and helped her escape from the princess's residence. After getting out, Chen Qin learned two things from the steward. Lin Qi was still alive. And Lord Chen, who was supposed to remain seriously ill in the original story, was now healthy. If they could escape the endings written for them, Han Shuo did not necessarily have to die either. Chen Qin immediately returned to the princess's residence to explain everything. But because she had just escaped, Han Shuo refused to listen. Chen Qin tore up the document she had used to end their marriage. Then she started trying to win Han Shuo back. Han Shuo deliberately made her stay beside him and serve him. He also flirted with Chu Chu right in front of her. Chen Qin kept fighting back. Then she accidentally burned her hand. The moment Han Shuo heard about it, he rushed over. Chen Qin thought he was going to give her a hard time again. Instead, Han Shuo simply took her injured hand. He asked why she had not told him first after getting hurt. Chen Qin acted a little spoiled for a moment. Han Shuo eventually pulled her into his arms. The two finally reconciled. Outside the residence, Han Shuo had already taken control of part of Chu Chu's forces and was preparing to take Chen Qin back to Xuanwu City. Chu Chu, meanwhile, was forcing Lord Chen to hand over the seal of the city lord. When Suing arrived, Chu Chu learned that Han Shuo had already left her side. She rushed out and confronted him. The fight was evenly matched. Then Chen Qin and Pei Hang arrived with the city guards, while Meng Guo led the bandits to help Chen Qin break through the city gates. With both groups now against her, Chu Chu began losing the battle. Bai Ji urged Han Shuo to retreat, but Han Shuo refused to leave without Chen Qin. Lord Chen ordered her men to stop him. In the end, with Meng Guo's help, Han Shuo was taken to prison to await execution. Chen Qin promised Han Shuo that she would get him out. After that, the two consummated their marriage in the prison cell. But Han Shuo's execution was scheduled for the next day. Chen Qin went to Lord Chen again and begged for mercy. If Lord Chen insisted on killing Han Shuo, Chen Qin said she would die with him. Then she pulled up her sleeve. The mark on her arm had disappeared. She and Han Shuo had truly become husband and wife. But the execution was not cancelled. Just as Han Shuo was about to be executed, Chen Qin suddenly rushed to his side. She collapsed in front of everyone. Everyone believed the third princess was dead. She was soon placed inside a coffin. At that moment, Pei Hang also revealed the truth about the Dragon Bone incident. He had advised Lord Chen to blame Han Shuo for stealing the Dragon Bone. Han Shuo was arguing with Pei Hang when Chen Qin's voice suddenly came from inside the coffin. Chen Qin had faked her death from the start using a retractable prop knife she had prepared in advance. After Pei Hong learned the truth, he decided to let the two of them be together. But Chu Chu did not believe Chen Qin was really dead. She first used mercury to test whether Chen Qin was actually dead. Han Shuo managed to help Chen Qin get past the test. Chu Chu then ordered the coffin sealed so Chen Qin could not breathe. Lord Chen stopped them in time and secretly left a small opening for Chen Qin. As the coffin was taken toward the mausoleum, Chu Chu still refused to give up. She arranged explosives and planned to blow up the entire coffin. Chen Qin survived the explosion. But the moment she escaped, she fell into Su Ying's hands. Lin Qi arrived in time and rescued her. Lin Qi was no longer at odds with Chen Qin the way she had been before. After escaping Chu Chu's pursuit, Chen Qin finally reached Xuanwu City with Han Shuo. But Xuanwu City was completely different from Huaiwan City. Women ruled Huaiwan City. In Xuanwu City, men ruled, and women faced more restrictions. As soon as Chen Qin arrived, she found herself bound by all kinds of rules. Han Shuo continued to stand by her side. Meanwhile, the situation in Huaiyuan City kept getting worse. Chu Chu had placed Lord Chen under house arrest and cut off the wuxia trade with Xuanwu City. Chen Qin eventually decided to return to Huaiyuan City. Han Shuo worried that returning would get her killed. Chen Qin still insisted on going back to resolve the crisis between the two cities. As Chu Chu kept restricting the men in the city, Su Ying stopped supporting her. After seeing her new orders, he listened to Chen Qin and switched sides. Chen Qin trusted him to help from inside the city while she and Han Shuo worked from outside. Their plan quickly brought Chu Chu under control. The city guards who had followed Chu Chu also switched to Pei Heng's side. With the troops no longer under her control, Chu Chu had no way out. But during the final chaos, Chu Chu suddenly knocked Su Ying down. Then she lunged at Chen Qin with her sword. Han Shuo stepped directly in front of Chen Qin. The sword pierced deep into his chest. Han Shuo did not have much time left. Afterward, Chen Qin went to see Chu Chu in prison. Chu Chu questioned her. Why had Han Shuo, Su Ying, and the people of Huaiyuan City all chosen Chen Qin in the end? Chen Qin told Chu Chu that she was not capable of becoming city lord. If Chu Chu did not believe that, she could prove otherwise on her own. The succession ceremony began. Chu Chu went first, walking the ceremonial flower path and completing the ritual. But the moment she finished, dark clouds covered the sky and violent winds began to blow. The eldest princess went second. Because of her leg condition, she had spent years in a wheelchair. This time, she successfully made it all the way down the flower path. There was no unusual sign in the sky, but she was already satisfied. Only Chen Qin remained. But Chen Qin did not step onto the path. She still remembered the rule she had written. Once the story reached its ending, the heavenly gate would open. She would return to the modern world. And she would leave Han Shuo for good. But Han Shuo was already badly wounded and did not have much time left. Even so, he forced himself to stay standing on the platform and wait for Chen Qin. The next second, Han Shuo suddenly coughed up blood and tumbled down the steps. Chen Qin forgot all about the succession ceremony. She rushed straight onto the flower path and ran toward Han Shuo. But by running down the flower path, she accidentally completed the entire ceremony. An auspicious sign immediately appeared in the sky. Everyone froze. The heavenly gate Chen Qin had waited so long for had opened. But now, it meant more than a chance to go home. It also meant leaving Han Shuo. Chen Qin was about to help him leave when her vision began to fade. Then her body began to fade too. When she opened her eyes again, Chen Qin was gone. Xiao Qin had returned to the modern world. According to the clock on the wall, only a few hours had passed. Her laptop screen was still on. It still showed the part of the story where she had rewritten the ending. Xiao Qin stood frozen in place. For a moment, she could not tell if it had all been a dream. She did not know if she had really been to that world. Almost immediately, the director called. Li Xin, the actor playing the male lead, had been in a car accident. He had suffered a lung injury and needed time to recover. Xiao Qin immediately thought of how much Li Xin looked like Han Shuo. She rushed to the hospital. When she saw Li Xin, she told him the story of Chen Qin and Han Shuo. At first, Li Xin did not understand what she was talking about and looked impatient. But then he suddenly said, "Orange and banana." Xiao Qin froze. There was no way Li Xin in the real world could have known those words. She could not hold back any longer and immediately hugged him. That was where the first season ended. Thank you for watching.